Hello and welcome to the Chilled Cardano podcast. I am Illinois here with Chilled Cardano on Twitter. How are you doing, big
Doing
guy?
good, Eric.
That's
Nice
great
little
to hear.
Saturday night.
Yes, and we'll have Opus Dao back on the podcast in a little bit here, but we've been away for a little while. I was traveling all throughout the country in my car, so I couldn't really do the podcast for a few weeks, but now I'm back and we'll be back. I wasn't gone because I was depressed,
And I'm sorry to spread that rumor. That's my bad.
It's fine. I'm fine with you spreading false rumors about me, but in case you guys missed it, the past few weeks have been kind of crazy, and there was a whole FTX collapse, and things were starting to like turn around a little bit. Like things were like stabilizing. I feel like we were about to get like a nice little uplift. And then FTX collapsed, and I'm sure everyone knows all about that at this point. But since then, it's just been like everything's kind of dead, I would say. Like NFTs volumes have been like super low. No one wants to invest in that. Seems like it might be coming back a little lately. I think people were waiting to see like what the fallout was. As far as me, I feel like I took a few days off Twitter at times, and I'm just like, I don't know. It's hard to care right now. Like things are just so bad. But lately I've been like back to like reading about crypto and everything. So how have you been lately?
No, I agree. I think if we needed a nice little break, luckily we had we both having babies, so we had our baby showers, and it's nice just to touch some grass.
We're not sharing a baby. We're having our own babies.
Yes, we're both having babies at the same time. Our wives are having babies. I say we're pregnant because it's a team effort.
I say I'm pregnant.
I'm pregnant. But no, it's been nice to kind of get away and kind of get that thirst to be like, what's going on with Cardano? You know what I mean? Like, it's been exciting, and I think it's been nice to take a break and take a step back, because now we get back into it and we're starting to see, like you said, like people were scared, people were timid. I think we were gonna go back up because the S&P 500 went up, and now it's in bull market territory. So we were correlated until the FTX collapse, because people don't know where the tokens are. FTX thought they had like 20,000 Bitcoin, and they were all faked. So it's just like, I think the market needs to settle down for a couple of months, and once that settles down, I think your native tokens and things like that will start to pop off. You'll start to see things start to move around, and that's going to be exciting, because you start to have a real ecosystem where things are happening, and you're not going to be able to keep pace with it. You know what I mean? Like, you're having Indigo protocol where they're getting which is really cool, which we should talk about at some point. But basically, you're able to do a stable coin on there. So you put in your ADA, and then you get an IUSD coin, right? And it's backed. And then at the same time, if you put it into their pool, you're actually getting a certain percentage more for your staked ADA, which is cool, because so you don't lose that ADA. It's staked. So you're getting on top of your staked ADA, you're able to use this collateral, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's been an amazing development, but it's just like by the time things recover, we're gonna have so much like new technology and exciting things that are only on Cardano, and like by the time people realize it, it's gonna be like, oh shit, I was sleeping on Cardano all this time. Like I was making fun of it, and now it's like one of the top chains, you know?
Well, I mean, you've seen that already. Like, I think it's a foregone conclusion that Cardano's like right after Ethereum for NFTs, and just more and more people are coming over from Ethereum to play with Cardano NFTs. And I think the next thing will be like the DeFi, because this month or next month we should get like Indigo Protocol and Axo, right? For like professional traders, which is nice to do that on chain. But we have a doozy for you tonight.
Nice segue. Is this a segue into the interview?
This is a segue into the interview. Yeah. It was gonna be.
It would have been. It would have been
would've
really
been nice.
smooth if I like it. Wait, does he have something else? But yes, we do have an interview with Opus Dao, and they have some exciting updates to share, and they're getting into a lot of industries, and I think they're actually gonna help bring on a lot of people onto Cardano, like business people, not just retail people. So I hope you stick around to listen to that, and I hope you guys enjoy. We'll be back next week with a regular ep, so we'll talk to you then. All right, we are here with the Opus Dao team. Looks like we've got a couple new members, Eric and Jackson. Davis, do you want to tell us a little bit about these two new guys?
Sure. I basically got into contact with Eric through LinkedIn. He reached out to me about our project, and there were a lot of things that he was interested in that were aligned with what we were building. So we kind of just took off from there. And Jackson came in as our social media manager. I'll let them give a little bit more info about how they came across Opus and the ecosystem we're putting together.
Yeah, so I had reached out to Davis on LinkedIn. I started doing some digging. This was after I started to degen on NFTs. Slowly started to look at Cardano and some other chains, projects that they were doing. And I don't even remember how, but Davis popped up on my LinkedIn, and I'm always on LinkedIn, throughout the day, just looking at stuff. I'm in the financial services industry. So I hit Davis up, and then we kind of talked, and Will and I had a conversation, and I was actually working on a project in the fintech and financial services space in regards to NFTs on Ethereum. So, that had really started to get crazy, and then things started to get not so great. So I started to, get pretty, I guess, more ingrained on the team with these guys. And yeah, I'm psyched. What we're doing is pretty cool. So I'm excited.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I joined a little bit shortly after Eric. My background is in digital marketing, and I have some experience like more traditional marketing avenues too. But yeah, so bringing like that level of experience to the team has been more or less my role, advising on certain projects. Yeah, that's about it.
Nice. What do you guys? Why don't you guys give us a nice little update for where we are with the project?
Yeah. So,
yeah, go for it, Will.
Okay. So, the last couple months we've really just tried to make a push to kind of fill in the, I guess, areas we already started to develop since the last time we talked to you guys. Really focusing on kind of creating the standards and best practices and building a marketplace around it to kind of facilitate all of that activity. And then the real focus of all of our operations being taking traditional asset classes such as real estate, automotive, and a lot of the other ones like healthcare and such that actually would massively benefit from this blockchain technology, let alone the need that's already there for it. From fraud to just over unnecessary expenses and inflated runaway costs that are associated with like the insurance industry, for example. Our hopes are the system we're creating and the whole ecosystem as a whole will help prevent a lot of that. So we're currently working with a few different partners to develop different technologies and softwares and things like that to kind of help speed up and streamline the process of getting these traditional industries on board.
Nice.
Great. Do you guys have like a timeline on the marketplace yet?
So currently we're in the final discussions for funding. So we kind of went about it a little bit of a different way, and because the whole marketplace was, or the whole market rather, was a little bit resembling the wild wild west, it seemed kind of taking a step back and really approaching this from the security and kind of regulatory aspects of it all to do it the right way first, since there wasn't really a way to speed that process up, and it doesn't seem like they still really know what they're doing quite yet.
Right.
The
Yeah.
FTX thing, I think, obviously lit the fire under everybody's asses a little bit, which I don't know if that's good or bad. Sometimes with government, when there isn't a really clear direction, they just tend to go in any direction. So what
Yeah.
we're really just trying to do is kind of abide by traditional laws and kind of regulations. And
We lost Will.
Boom. Will's Wi-Fi is dust.
His Wi-Fi.
okay. Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, essentially, what we're really trying to do is just I forget where I just left off there.
I think we're talking about the like government's place as far as like
Gotcha. Yeah. So
securities.
the marketplace timeline and stuff. So with the FTX stuff, obviously that's going to cause some problems for the whole industry, and just trying to be positioned in a way where we made sure we're registered in the United States. We don't have any offshore entities. We're as transparent as possible with everything within line with normal business practices. There's no reason, given the industry, that we need to be doing this in some country that has lax, extradition laws. That to me just pretty much outright says I have nefarious intent, or I at least want to leave that door open. And
Right.
that's not what we're about. So currently with our other company, our parent company, JF Picking, we're actively pushing the development of something called Quantified Impact Report, where essentially trying to create a better standards and rating system for things like corporate governance and all that kind of stuff. Currently, if not evident by the FTX debacle, who apparently had a ESG firm come in and give them a rating for corporate governance that was stellar. There's obviously a lot of lacking there as far as kind of oversight committees and stuff to keep these larger companies accountable when the regulatory nature is not even in place yet.
I
Yeah,
love
I
the
think it's important
approach.
to have.
No, go ahead, Eric.
I was probably going to say something similar, but I think it's important to have like people's trust at this point in time. Like everyone's just so concerned about like, is this person going to take all my money? Like even the most trustworthy seeming people like have just rugged everyone. So it's good to get like, get all your ducks in a row and get the government's approval on everything before you really go full bore into things.
That's our thoughts, and we actually have a software that's part of our family's group of companies. It's a security software. There was kiddingly one of those coincidental happenstances we couldn't have created if we tried. They were struggling a little bit to get into the certain markets they were targeting. It's more of McAfee with a purpose and not annoying. It's like a security overlapping layer, or I'm technologically not great, so bear with me with the explanation. But essentially, it's like hardware security and ties in a bunch of dual authentication and authorization, kind of like next level layer of security that makes it so all the different transactional interactions should be able to be tracked and validated to the highest degree that's currently able to be done.
So how does the Cardano protocol come into play with that then, as far as like if you guys are kind of doing your own software thing and like having your centralized company, like when do you guys start to use
So
the
where it comes in
decentralized?
is utilizing a blockchain oracle to have Core Centurion feed data into it for further verification on top of the blockchain.
So then will you use it for anything else? Like do you guys have a DAO as well?
We do.
Yes.
That's going to be what runs the marketplace. Think of this like this will essentially verify the interaction of the person. A great example is the cannabis industry for delivery. it would essentially verify the person who's ordering the product is also the same person who received the delivery via the biometrics on your cell phone. So think blockchain without cryptocurrency.
Gotcha. And then do you guys like what's the first thing that you guys are prioritizing as far as like what you're trying to bring to market first? Like what can we see from you guys? I know you guys have the NFTs, but then what's the next step?
Really getting the marketplace launched.
Yeah. Do we have a timeline for that as far as like are we thinking like 6 months out or?
That's probably a fair accurate. We're hoping to get it done a little bit quicker. We're working on kind of the final stages of negotiations with some different partnerships that'll give us the internal ability to kind of more or less mass produce these types of things without having to rely on outside development necessarily. So it'll kind of more or less a consortium of different companies that have already kind of have an expertise in the industry. So really kind of leaning on the community here. And the reason the Cardano, I think, is so applicable, at least for me with my novice understanding of the whole blockchain and crypto community as a whole, was the Marlowe smart contracts and how that just kind of with everything in the technology we have tied in together makes it so essentially you can streamline a real estate transaction and eliminate all the headaches that can come about, like bad wires or due diligence paperwork not being ready, all the unnecessary things that just add cost. And it's not to the people that can afford it, it's to the bottom of the rung of the socioeconomic scale.
Nice.
As far as like marketing, you find it a lot harder to reach people like now that we're in like this deep bear market where like some people just like stop going on Twitter, like crypto Twitter, just until like things improve. Have you found it more difficult, like marketing wise?
I guess I can't speak to what our expectations were before our mint, but we've actually had a fair deal of success just getting on Twitter Spaces and talking about our project and really just like showing what we're working on. We've had, I guess, more success than I expected just through that avenue. As far as like social media marketing goes, we're planning on ramping up our like social media presence, like probably January 1st. Beginning of the year, we've had some meetings to like start to get our strategy together and like how we're going to post, our posting schedule, like some of the things we're going to be doing to get interaction and just get people interested in the project.
Nice. If you need like any TikTok dances or anything, Mike is really good with that kind of thing.
Oh, Mike, we'd love to get you on for a TikTok.
Hit me up in the DMs. I got you. Are you guys still working with them?
Sorry, go ahead. I think I cut you off there.
Oh, are you guys still working with M Labs? I believe, was that the company you were working with before to write the
for the development? Yes. They're still handling a lot of the current development that we need. We're currently, like I mentioned, discussing some different partnerships with smaller, kind of more boutique firms that fit what we're really trying to do at scale and have a little bit more aligned corporate policies and such.
So then is your focus going to be more towards like business to business as opposed to retail?
Yeah, I want to try to build up a solid foundation for the retail to actually operate within so that the industry itself can kind of regulate the actual activity if it needs to until the actual industry can have that regulation, similar to like a bar not serving a patron to the point where he dies of alcohol poisoning.
Right.
Not because it's the law, but because it's morally the right thing to do.
Are you finding it harder and harder, like with this FTX thing going on, to find other businesses that would be interested still, or do you think like that the market's still kind of frothy in the fact that, I don't know personally for you guys, but it just feels like to me, like as much as bad news as we had for the market, that you're just seeing a lot more mainstream companies like still being interested in wanting to classify their company as Web3 and getting like, dipping their toe in the water. so to
I
speak.
think that's really the biggest differentiating factor right there is kind of clearly identifying on the public kind of spectrum what Web3, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and kind of the differences between all of them, the interoperability of it all, and how one does not equally mean the other or automatically it doesn't mean one company just because it's operating with blockchain technology and on a Web3 platform uses cryptocurrency. So it seems like a lot of people are doing that, not really advertising the blockchain technology advancements, but their insurance companies and their investors love it because it's lowering the underwriting cost of the transactions.
Yeah, that's what's interesting about what we're doing is the NFT is just like one part of it, right? If you think about what we're trying to do in various sectors with real estate, Will mentioned automotive, collectibles, fractionalization. Like if you think about this vertical integration, it all revolves around blockchain, not crypto, not NFTs, right? It's the technology. The NFTs are just a means for us to be able to execute on some different things. So that's probably what's most exciting for me is that we've figured out a way to bring these things all together in a vertically integrated structure. That's my
I would compare it to an ammo drop in battle where it's not ideal, but it's a lot better than the situation you were in before. NFTs definitely have a huge value with what they can do from a security standpoint and kind of adding a new form of security. Timeshare is a good example of where that might fill in and kind of fix that problem, making it in the secondary market a lot more sellable of an asset class.
Well, should we talk about the real estate stuff? I mean, that's pretty interesting. I don't know if anyone's done that. We've made a lot of progress.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely open to discuss that if these guys are willing to listen.
Yeah, I'd love some insight into it.
Love to hear it.
Okay. So yeah, essentially we're really trying to tackle this real estate industry just from a whole perspective. Kiddingly, things like title abstract just shouldn't be a thing, and the amount of time that goes into real estate processes and essentially commercial deals, especially. There's so many people that make a very, very nice living off really not doing much other than fixing mistakes that shouldn't exist. And that's all good and fine, but at some point we have to start to correct these systems, not just add cost to the problem. And we think blockchain can really do a lot of those things, and some of that also involves NFTs. With the more kind of intricate financing stuff, that's definitely not my expertise. I'll let Eric kind of take it from there and explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, so we've approached some developers. We won't get into like some of the cool projects that we've got, like the tiny homes, unless Will wants to talk about that stuff. But we have reached out to some developers to potentially fund deals on chain, right, through our community, through other communities, and giving people an opportunity to maybe take a different approach, right? This isn't staking, this isn't crypto, but this is potentially taking that digital wealth and converting it or utilizing another sector to create some traditional wealth, right? Which is pretty cool. So we've found and are in talks with the developer in Colorado, and then we're going to start reaching out to some other developers too that have sort of a niche in their specific marketplace. Like we're not talking about like huge apartment buildings. More of it is, and they've got some pretty cool projects in various like affluent pockets in different cities, and that's a really cool way for them to be able to raise money because none of them have tackled this space, right? They mostly just bootstrap these projects and go to their investor base and try to fund these things, and that's tough, right? This opens up a whole nother avenue and a huge community that I think would be pretty interested in doing some of this stuff. So that's pretty exciting.
Can you go
So how does that work?
Yeah, can you go into like the underlying
So I
idea?
can kind of explain that a little bit better. So one of the biggest issues in development is you have a couple different players. One of them is my bartender flips houses, and that causes its own problems in itself, where people that can't quite have the experience or capital to get into the game can build a really nice house. It's not that hard to do that and still have some margin, but they don't really have the money to sit on it and write out taxes for a year and maintain and read the market to know what block or what side of that block they should have built on, because the neighborhood alcoholics who break people's car windows are actually right next door. Little things like that, believe it or not, actually cause huge issues. And you have 40-year-old men crying because their brand new M3 just had its windshield shattered for the fourth night in a row, and Safe Flight won't come out. So, and it's like stupid stuff like that, but and it's all petty emotional stuff that happens, and then that knocks these little developers out, and then all you have left are these big, not conglomerates necessarily. A lot of them started out 1-2 houses, but they have the ability to essentially do deals so big that they can't individually fund them. So it's always joint ventures, and there's usually a rather large funding institution involved, and they can pretty much bully anyone out. So it kind of takes that mom and pop developer right out of the game. That's going to kind of almost guaranteed happen when it's raw land development and really up and coming areas, because the high demand. But it's also a big factor of what leads to the quote unquote gentrification accusations of that not meshing of neighborhoods where you get shattered windshields. That doesn't need to happen. That's actually completely unnecessary and not a part of redevelopment. Philadelphia is very good at urban redevelopment, especially industrial repurposing and such. And one of the ways we do it essentially is, if people don't want to sell, there's, hey, nothing you can do. You just build what you're going to build. And then eventually that property is kind of a little bit of a, not eyesore, but it sticks out a little bit. Sometimes it's because you can't see it that it sticks out. But essentially those houses can lower the comp values and eventually lower the overall value of that neighborhood. Just like that bartender that leaves the house to essentially fall apart drops the value of all the other houses people just bought, over leveraged on their mortgage, and all the other problems that lead to then real estate collapse. So from the strategic development end of things, and how we're kind of really at times uncomfortably involved in all of that, and seeing what the little, it's always human emotional causes of these big problems, and little developers often fix it. Most of the time, the neighborhood isn't, there isn't the same level of aggression towards that guy that's just like them. A lot of times, those guys are literally from that street and buy the neighbors who can't afford to fix their houses up house. We've seen that before too. There's just giving that portion of the market access where it's free and easy and they can kind of find their own niche is something that keeps the problems in real estate development and redevelopment and all the expansion that's happening from going bad. And essentially Aaron, the gentleman out in Colorado, is doing a very similar model where he's taking lots that are essentially too big now for the neighborhood size. It's going to be a weird valued home. It's going to mess up comps. It's just not a desirable home anymore for that neighborhood, and essentially either letting people maintain the rent till they're done. Once they leave, we'll eventually develop the lot into 2 different lots and then add 2 new homes. And affordable housing and just housing in general is a huge issue in Colorado right now with the EDUs. From, at least this was 2 years ago, but the last research we had done, the infrastructure wasn't really able to sustain the demand as quickly as it was happening. So that was where a big cost of the development was coming from. So things like this will help kind of, I think, offset a lot of that, as these neighborhoods get completely done across the board and all of the homes can pay an equatable amount of tax contribution and the whole 9 yards.
Wow, we want. All right. That was
sorry. That's like a big portion of what I do, and personally, I love that stuff. I think Philly's still bouncing back from the yellow fever.
No, for sure. So walk me through this. Like, are we helping like the little guy out then to like help with like? Are you saying like you're gonna basically with like this whole process help the little guy with liquidity issues as far as like getting money when
essentially?
Okay.
It's just like working in your business or on your business. When you're one single developer and your wife's your interior designer or your friend or whatever it may be, you have to essentially spend more of your time dealing with the whole financing of it all, even when it is out of your own pocket. If you want to scale, you can't do more than 2 or 3 at a time, realistically small, because you might need to actually put up what you paid already for the home plus the construction cost at that point, just to keep it going for different reasons. So
So with
it
your
is
technology, then he would be able to tap into that before, like, let's say the house was even finished, right?
yeah.
Because are we
It
kind of
could
talking
just
about
be
like fractionalizing
Yeah,
the
we're
house in a
thinking
way?
for right now trying to fractionalize the initial land purchase so
Okay.
that the risking everything and then also that big jump in price is benefited by the fractionalized shareholders. They're also not sitting with that liability in a real estate deal. A lot of people don't want that long-term hold. That's also probably what the NFT and cryptocurrency communities are really looking for, that type of investment to begin with. That's
Yeah.
also where accreditation definitely comes into play, because you need to have a lot of liquidity to sit on something like that. It's generally viewed as like double the time you're going to sit on a normal investment. So I think our hopes were trying to giving them that, either a piece of one aspect of that transactional process, whether it's through the rental income or as it sells and then the final sale, but not having to hold it or take most of that liability.
So then somebody on the blockchain could just buy a piece of that, and
Yeah.
then would they need to like have some type of a DID or something, like a decentralized ID to like, or could they just be like anonymous and like be like, okay, like I see that as a great investment, I want a piece of that house, I can go to like a DEX and then buy a piece and then
So
have some type of ownership?
I don't know the technical answer to that, and I'm certainly not the one to even speculate on that. But I
Okay.
will say, from personal opinion, I'm hoping, and this is, I'm sure, not a friendly opinion. Kiddingly, cut it out if it's really that bad. What I'm about to say.
No. I think it's a great
CMG
conversation.
we have, I'm hoping will actually force people to, with these larger scale transactions that have someone else innocent victims' lives in kind of
Yeah.
their hands, they're gonna have to give full identity.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to know who they are in the court of law in the United States by our laws and how that all works. There's not going to be any, oh, well, I'm in Switzerland and you can't actually do anything. I now own this family's house. That's not
Right.
going to happen.
Okay.
So
That makes
Interesting.
sense. And
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly for the marketplace, we'll have different levels of KYC and AML compliance depending on which assets you want to get into, whether it's basic JPEGs or fractionalized real estate or fractionalized collectibles. Just like Coinbase has different levels of authentication for different levels of purchasing power and access to trading tools.
Now I'm like imagining your marketplace, and it's like real estate, trading cards, and it's like it'd be pretty cool to like have this all encompassing marketplace. I think that would really
that's our hope. And I think personally, if we can make it where it's not based on fees and it's more based on our ability to do this all correctly and make sure the key things like fraud and just essentially providing that best practices standards, you're getting a base level, and it's never going to go below that. You're guaranteed this. It does what it says it's going to do, and that being what really draws people in.
Are you guys still doing the trading cards and the cases that? Are we
Yep.
still doing that?
Yes, we are.
guys
We're
wanna-
actually pretty close to launching that, but that is definitely out of my wheelhouse.
Okay.
Yeah, I can talk about it. That's our number one priority right now, is to execute on that. For a couple different reasons. Not only does it give us sort of a use case for some of the other things that we're trying to do, but I think also from a branding, from a marketing standpoint too, it puts our name out there. We're
Right.
super close. We need to really, there's two main things. We need to solidify or come to terms on our manufacturing agreement from the cost standpoint, make sure that this is in line with, the project that we partnered with, what their owners, what the owners of their NFTs are willing to pay for something like this. I think it's unique, but yeah, the encapsulation of the trading cards. We actually last week, Davis sent out the samples of our trading cards to the company that we partnered with. So we've gotten word back from them. That looks like it's good to go. Now we've just got to lock up a couple other pieces and we're ready to go to market with it. So, I mean, it could be as little as, 30 days to maybe 60 days, maybe a little bit less. So
Very exciting.
we're pretty excited.
I think I'm most excited about that with your guys' project, just because I have some NFTs I'd love to get, like a physical.
Yeah, so that's like one of the biggest things that we've talked about on our team calls is if we're successful with this, really what we want to do is under promise and over deliver, right? And just make sure that the service is legit, everyone's happy with the quality, turn times, customer service if necessary. And what we don't want to do is create some sort of bottleneck with the manufacturers and the card grading company. So we're just really trying to lock that down and make sure that everything's on point, because we anticipate once we do this, there's probably going to be some other people that come knocking. And I mean, you guys know the mint sizes on a lot of these projects, not just Cardano, but on some other chains too, they're pretty significant. I mean, so if we get 20% of a 10,000 mint collection or a 5,000 mint collection, we need to be able to lock that down quickly. So we've got some ideas on how we're going to do that. But yeah, that's we've been talking about that a lot on our team calls.
Very
and there are similar services out there like CNFT slabs, but what will differentiate us is having a serious card grading partner.
Yeah.
And then also that card grading partner not being owned by Blackstone, I think might help.
That would help a lot.
So do you guys know your ESG score offhand? Or I'm joking. That's a joke. Bad joke.
I think that joke went over everyone's head.
Oh no,
I don't even know what it meant.
That's what the quantified impact score is. So what we essentially did contributed 3 different factors for ESG and DEI, and are essentially looking at it from a lot of these corporations. When you make oil, you can only do so much to pivot from that being an environmentally not great business. But if you treat your employees great and you're doing all these other things that are proactive and really trying to do the best you can, you shouldn't be like crucified and your employees laid off in the thousands just because. Having a fair, accurate way to display these things that isn't targeted and is just fully transparent, I think is what needs to happen.
Right.
So we're partnering with a couple different board individuals and just company people that have been in this for a while and kind of see the same, not nepotism, but just a lot of the same BS that people are like, oh, well, that's just the way it is. And that's kind of, well, we have technology now, so that doesn't need to be the way it is. Kiddingly, I've had someone tell me, oh, I didn't know a company could own a company. Well, last time I asked my lawyer, that's what he told me. Like, dude, that had to be before I was born. Like 1988? Like, what the fuck? Revisit the laws a little bit and relook at things and kind of review it through the modern scope and perspective and kind of continually innovate your business practices. So we're trying to hold people accountable for that type of thing as well. Just even like nonprofits, where their money goes really shouldn't be over 15% overhead. If you are, you're probably not running the nonprofit properly.
So is that who you're going after? Like all those middlemen that kind of take out all the profit for like the real users of whatever the thing is, like somebody buying a house and somebody selling a house?
Yeah, with the commercial real estate, that is what we are essentially doing. Generally, one of the brokers in that whole mix or someone else involved generally just messes the water a little bit and generally is the one that causes the problem, whether it's they're the one that forgot something or just tried to get a cut of the money going through the whole deal larger for them. It makes it a headache. It's probably a lot of the causality of the reason to be able to sue when there is lawsuit.
Right.
It's just not necessary when you're dealing with 2 businesses. Most of the time when the businesses are privy to this, they just essentially buy each other's businesses and the land's just an asset. So you don't need the real estate broker at that point.
Eric's going for it.
Nice.
I love it.
Outer space.
I'm in outer space.
No, yeah,
So
to kind of
someone
add on
had
to
oh, go ahead.
what Will says, I think that like our team views NFTs, DAOs, and like the technology provided by blockchain as a tool to business rather than a tool in and of itself. I think like just using those tools to facilitate better business practices, I guess.
Holding people accountable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
across the board though, and that was the one thing that I think I get a little upset about sometimes with the current quote unquote degen self-identified community, where it seems like they just now want to have their chance to, do the illegal things and make all the money justly, where it's like, no. The point was we're all gonna stop this now. Not just, oh well, it's my turn. Nope, get the fuck back here. We're all gonna sit down and do it the right way. And I guess whether we have to use us as that guinea pig, I think there's a way to instill the full transparency with this technology and make business actually fair to the furthest degree you possibly can with people.
I love that. I think the hardest thing in the absolute world is to get, like, you guys are working in Colorado, so you have all these laws that you have to deal with that are kind of old, right? And they're out of date. They need to be updated because they don't really work in this new world with the internet and digital ownership. So are you guys finding it like really hard to deal with the government in these local places where they probably don't even know what a blockchain is for the most part, and then you have to come in and kind of hold their hand through the whole process to be like, this is how our business is going to work? And like do they find that as like valid, or do they find it kind of like this is magic? Like, what do you guys even talk like? Is, you know what I mean?
So,
does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. So I still find it like magic, but then again, I find like probably similar. Yeah, there's a lot of basic technologies like a radio. I'm like, how the fuck does that work?
Right. Yeah.
I just I think most business owners understand if they can get the difference between crypto and they don't have that immediate it's a scam,
Right.
like and just shut it out immediately. There's enough evidence. Deloitte wrote a very lengthy white paper about how blockchain is the end all be all answer to commercial real estate. Like, it's the future of commercial real estate in their minds. And to see a huge, company like that that's really getting behind it publicly shows you the industry is just slowly but surely taking its time. I think that was really how a lot of people from what I've talked to wanted to see kind of how the crypto and the blockchain kind of shook out in the public view. A lot of these publicly traded companies don't want to lose a huge amount of shareholders just because, we're embracing blockchain technology. So a lot of people are kind of subtly doing it on the back end and knowing they can use it as a selling point if they need to, but there's no reason to advertise it.
Yeah, I think one of the companies that we had a conversation with, I'm not going to mention them by name, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, their entire thing was to not be a Web3 company, but to use that technology on the back end to empower what they're doing as a business. And I thought that was really interesting because that's not exactly our goal, but there are like certain aspects in certain industries that we're approaching that will probably have the same approach, where it's not really like the Web3, like the buzzword that's really important.
Right.
It's important what the software, what it actually does.
Right. Yeah. I'm hoping that becomes more normalized too, where people can just start using the technology and it doesn't really matter like the hot trend or whatever the name is. Like, I think Jack Dorsey's even trying to do like Web 5 as far as like Bitcoin technology goes, and I just think that's kind of silly. When in reality, like what Will is saying, it's like the blockchain is transparent, so you can see like where everything's going and what wallets have what, and if you need to do like a multi-sig, setup for multiple parties, you can do that. I think that's incredible. So
yeah, I mean, look at like the whole reason that this stuff started to take over, and the whole reason that you started to see companies invest in blockchain was to efficiency. Sorry,
you're breaking up a little bit, Air.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I have 2 French bulldogs and they just had a meltdown. But the whole reason that people in big, Fidelities and everyone else invested in this is to create efficiency, right? If you look at like derivatives trading, settlement dates on, individual stocks and things like that, there's no reason all this happens real time on chain, and it can be verified. That's the whole point of this, is to create efficiencies. So I think there's definitely something to it. But yeah, that's the approach that we're trying to take, is not make this like in your face, but have it operate in the background and just be the infrastructure for all the businesses that we're trying to, work with. So,
I mean, how many people like identify Twitter as, oh, I'm using a Web 2.0 platform? That's like, it's just a label that we put on. I don't know. It's interesting, and I think people have kind of scams in the industry have kind of messed with the name Web3, and I mean crypto, obviously, but we've talked a lot internally about like thought leadership and that, like in that extent of like how do we like redefine ourselves outside of those terms that have kind of been dirtied by bad actors, to help us like move forward in like communication with our clients, so that when we say crypto, it doesn't automatically like turn up their nose, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So then do you even bother telling them that like besides you guys using this on the back end, like do you guys classify yourself as like I mean, for lack of a better term, a Web3 company, or like how do you
part of it,
present yourself?
Yeah, part of it, and we don't want to exclude anybody, because the community, the community thrives in Web3. People are engaged regardless of the shit that happens. People are engaged, and you don't find that anywhere else, right? And in the other your sector, like people, I don't know if it's demographics. I mean, I'm 41, so I'm probably the fucking oldest guy on this phone call by like 20
I'm
years.
right up there with you, buddy. I'm 38, so
yeah, but like we don't want to completely create this Chinese wall between what we're doing. What I think a different way to look at it is maybe to bridge that, right, where you talk about like that decentralized world, DeFi, all these different things. Try to bridge that, because at the end of the day, like if you can create a common ground, right, and that's why I talked about like creating digital wealth into traditional wealth, like traditional financial, finance concepts. That's really what we're trying to do, is like bridge the two together. So hopefully that answers your question.
So I think you guys actually just touched on a really, really good point about the whole view of all this. To be honest, it's one of those weird human things, I think, from a consumerism standpoint. I guess a good example would be like your house wrapping. When your house is being built, like, you could either buy like the DuPont Tyvek that's fireproof. If you're in a high, forest fire area, you're probably going to go, I love the eco-friendly, new company that's trying to do this really good stuff, but I'm going to go with the really evil chemical company because I know it works and I don't want to die in a house fire. And that's people, they trust the brand that they know works. So when people say Web3 company, I think people immediately assume these people don't have an office. There is no place you can physically go to. So right off the bat, there's already that concern. And then the Web3, there's not even a company that has a reputation or an image in its own right where you can essentially address that if there's an issue. People can just essentially up and disappear, like in FTX essentially. I mean, it's a perfect example of these were just a bunch of college kids in a really, really, really nice condo in the Bahamas snorting Adderall. Like, what the? How did that happen? And it's just, it makes everybody else, I think, look like an idiot in a way where there was at least
it does.
Who addressed it. He wrote a big letter and he said, we all got pretty much screwed by FOMO, and he's like, we can't let this happen again. Like, we have to do due diligence. We have to, and that's one of the things that I think blockchain can improve is the due diligence process and such, which in private investment is just usually a good looking girl who's a bit sneaky and knows she can get information hell or high water, and comes back after 3 months and tells you everything you need to know, and you base your decision on that. And then she eventually becomes a partner. And that's kind of the process where the best firms I know, they had a girl that was attractive, all bullshit aside, and she was smart as shit and could read people. And they would go live with the company essentially in the office every day and figure it all out. But that's so rare these days because that costs 90,000 a year salary plus bonuses to employ that person.
Right.
And it's such an unnecessary expense where most people just go, I like you. That sounds like a good idea. And it's like, I don't know how anyone would go, here's 20 million. I'll accept that's your confidential business information. I don't need to know how your technology works. Like,
I feel like that's where the blinders were on for Sam Bankman because he had the pedigree of his parents being compliance lawyers.
In jail. Any doctor would have told you there's no way in hell you can pull even 10 tests out of a single drop of blood, let alone unless she invented some technology, which we would see somehow. It's not possible. So it's like, did every investor just go, fuck it, I'll pull out before it at least comes down, and jumped into the house of cards? It's just so, yeah, I think we can also use it for a tool for accreditation. So there's no more, oh, well, we didn't check people's bank accounts because that's uncomfortable. Who wants to help? Like, who's going to actually say it? I don't think you're actually as well off as you're saying, sir. I need to see your bank balance and your income statement to make sure you're not broke. It's like, what? No one does that. So it's just on good faith, and it's completely on the responsibility of the investment firm to do due diligence on accreditation. Something like an NFT would be a simple thing like that. So we're trying to create a living NFT technology, essentially, from what I understand, that'll facilitate that type of active thing. So when there's huge drops in the market, it's evident to see someone's net worth just plummeted and they are no longer an accredited investor. It would be highly risky and equivalent to going to Las Vegas or a drug dealer if they were to invest their money. So we would have to stop that and red flag it. And the technology we have, I think, can do all that. And all the reasons why it's ran by DAO and not us.
So, like, who does this supplant? Like, who is your guys' main competitor if this succeeds, and you guys look back, like, who gets taken out of, like, who's out of a job? I guess, as far as like.
Ideally, I think all the people that aren't doing their jobs the right way. I don't want to take anyone out of a job that's actually contributing to the market and adding value to whatever it is they're doing.
Right.
But I certainly want to keep people on their feet and create a deterrent.
Don't take my job.
And then, so, like, if this is like blockchain agnostic, like, do you guys need to use Cardano, or since you're just using, like, I guess transactions to, like, finalize, like, does it need to be Cardano? Can it be Bitcoin? Can it be
right now
Ethereum?
That's Cardano.
Okay.
So, potentially down the road, but I mean, we need to make sure that we execute on some key initiatives before we start to, dip our toe in another arena. And some of our investor calls, like, we have a lot of ideas, conceptually, we're thinking about this vertically integrated, structure where we've got, the dual authentication, we've got a development team that we work with, we've got various physical asset partners, right, with real estate, trading cards, and things. So we're just trying to stack that systematically so that we can execute instead of like, oh, we want to go fucking build a pyramid and then we want to go build a hot air balloon. Like, that's not what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So
when you have those conversations,
it'll be possible to build D apps on Cardano and make side chains of our own to plug in.
Yeah. I guess that's what I was getting at too. And then also, like, when you guys have those conversations and you bring up Cardano, are they like apprehensive, or do they know anything about Cardano, or
some of that? I think when you talk about a chain, right, it's associated with a currency, a digital currency, right? There's that they're sort of synonymous. So some of the investors that we've talked to are like, whoa, we're a little bit leery of crypto. But then there's been some others that are, why Cardano?
Right.
I think there's some good answers to that. I understand the apprehension. Does it get the exposure? The marketplace, like an OpenSea or, I mean, Solana, that seems like a death trap these days, but like Magic Eden, it's like, like there's a lot of volume and stuff. I mean, the volume's definitely dropped off, but Cardano's picking up too. You know, if you look
Right.
at the community, the engagement numbers on various platforms, you know, the community's growing. So I think there's a lot of opportunity if you understand the space, you know. And I don't, and yeah, I mean, different investors, you know, VC, private equity firms, I don't think they understand the space. I think they got like a little bit of FOMO, you know. So I think one of the things that's going to come out of this too is they're going to start to do some due diligence, like really where is the opportunity, because it's certainly not in JPEGs, right? An NFT, a digital deed of sorts, or having something that has utility and provides its holders something else other than just an image or art, right? I'll put the quotes, the air quotes in there. Like that's what people are looking for, and I think that's what we're doing.
I love that.
So like, is it hard to like battle some of the tribalism with like people who are Ethereum or Solana are usually like not interested in Cardano at all? So like, do you feel like you're battling a little bit of that?
I don't
promoting things.
I
From
think
personal experience, I guess one of I have my roommate, one of his coworkers is like very involved in a project that's on Solana. And a couple months ago, like when I was explaining like our project and that we were on Cardano, he, you know, kind of teasingly told me that I'm on a ghost chain and why are you developing on there? And, you know, kind of listed out like some of the issues. Oh, you really know somebody who can program in Cardano? And I was like, I don't know. Like, so that stuff, it definitely still happens to me, but I don't know. Like, I'm not too concerned about it, I guess.
Yeah.
And that was kind of on a more personal level.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
look, it's awful what happened with FTX and the whole blow up of the space, but like, I know it's awful for prices, but the interesting thing to me has been the way Cardano shine this whole time, as you've seen like Solana fall and everything that FTX was propping up. You start to notice all their bots are gone, and then you start to see what real community is really like here. It's like Ethereum, it's Cardano, it's Bitcoin, and everything else was kind of propped up by just all this liquidity that was just rolling around. And I mean, obviously I'm a fanboy of Cardano, but I think it's like kind of this next year, and I like, especially your project, I think like it had like this chain has a really bright future. And I just think like the collaboration and just everyone's just a lot more open too. So
yeah, certainly. I mean, you can see Davis is wearing the Rare Bloom shirt. Like we got to go see the community in full effect out in Colorado, and I just thought it was amazing. Like there are people that are really here to build, and it's not just about, you know, the coin price. Eric, sorry, I kind of cut you off there.
No, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's part of this is the coin price, right? Like if you talk about like HBAR, for example, like you have this really niche, like weird little like community, super intelligent people that sort of have their understanding of the space. And then you have like the Ethereum, which I think really you look at like that crowd and really what happened with OpenSea, I think they did a really good job at facilitating a lot of bullshit.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
Like they made it so easy, and I'm guilty of this. Like free, I remember there was like after the Luna thing, there's this Do Kwon mint where he's like in a caricature and he's holding different signs, like Luna to the moon. Dude, I think I minted like 38 of those or something ridiculous. Just because, you know, like they were free. And it was like, it got to this weird thing. I remember a buddy of mine had a joint wallet. We had 5 goblins at 0.5 ETH a piece, and we dumped them at 0.64. And watch 2 weeks later go to like 8. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So much money there. Everyone was just like, it's dangerous. You know, it's a dangerous place to be if you don't know what the hell's going on and you're not paying attention. And I think Cardano is different, right? Because it's like, I mean, you look at like Jackson's got Ore, you know, his PFP. I think, I don't know, Davis might have a Disco Solaris or an Ore PFP. But those are like reasonable things, right? That don't get like this weird FOMO scenario that happened. Like they minted and they sold out quick, but we're not talking about like going to $9,000. I mean, Ore, yeah, but like they've got some cool stuff and you know, they're expensive, but I think I'm rambling, but part of that is reflective in the price, you know? So anyway.
I think that's coming though. Like, I'm not saying that's not going to happen here, because I think it will. I just think like this next cycle, I have a really strong opinion that Cardano probably will lead the pack, just because of the technology, and then people will get really familiar with the code, how to write it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with like the AI stuff too, but like the Chat GPT, like the way you can basically have an AI write the code for you. It's kind of getting crazy. And just like all these technologies coming together, I just think this next year is just going to be like, you know, we're all kind of sad because the markets are bad, but I think the future is so crazy bright, and it's going to go like that. And the next thing you know, everyone's going to have a wallet of some sort, you know, with digital collectibles.
I mean,
Yeah, no. I think
Beta
I
went to
texted
$3
Davis.
and it had nothing on it at the time.
Yeah.
Sorry, but go ahead.
I think I texted Davis 20 times when I saw that Chat GPT thing for the first time. It blows my mind. Like,
Yeah.
the future of that technology it's absurd.
It's crazy.
Even a month ago, if you would have told me that was real, I would have told you you're lying, and
Yeah.
you're full of shit. To be frank, it's incredible.
And then a solar flare happens, and then we're all really fucked because
Well,
we can't
come on,
hold-
man.
He's gonna bring us down.
Yeah,
That's why my basement is full of MREs. Then I can live without the internet. But yeah.
That's why you have a Raspberry Pi in a Faraday cage shielded case with operating system, so you can get everything going again.
I can be
You
on the
running it on
internet
your
when no one
bicycle?
else is on it.
Always remember the value of fire, though, because freezing to death's a bitch.
yes, 100%.
But that's why you have the heat from Bitcoin.
There you go.
There you go.
On that note, is there anyone actually doing anything that's somewhat significant in that direction of trying to actually strategically capture these mining operations in somewhat of a like, okay, let's put them all here because there's some issues and we could use that as a heat source?
As far as I know, only Siberia. There are miners in Siberia where it's completely net positive because you're heating your room and mining Bitcoin and making money at the same time.
Plus the electricity.
Some people use like geothermal energy.
Yeah, I was gonna say my dad is in the oil industry, and there's a company that he's been exposed to a couple times that they're on drill pads, and I think that they use because sometimes you just have to burn off natural gas,
Right?
You can't
Flare
store
gas.
it, you like get too much out of the well. So they were using the natural gas actually to power their mining expenditures. So it was like a way to offset costs. And I guess it's cold. That company's in North Dakota, so maybe. Well,
That's interesting. That's definitely some our other partner Jake would probably actually know a good bit about how to get that going. We should definitely have a follow up on that one.
That's alpha.
Well, guys, we appreciate the time tonight, and
Yeah, thank you so
as
much, man.
usual, we definitely enjoyed chatting with you guys. Definitely thoughtful questions and good conversation, and I think we're certainly all in line with our view on where this is all going to go. Personally, I think kiddingly half the time it's because I don't know anything else. I came in and well, Cardano is that's the one. So I was like, all right, I'm good. Cardano it is. I've learned is just reaffirmed that, so it's been pretty exciting.
So
yeah, we'd love to get on with you again.
Yeah, I was gonna make a stupid
We'd
joke.
love to get
Go
on
ahead,
with you
Jason.
again. Sorry. Yeah, we'd love to get on with you again with Chris and Cody when they can join. Then we're busy tonight, so we didn't get a chance to get loop them in on the call. But I know
So
that they were.
I'm glad we met you guys. No, Eric and Jackson, I think you guys are going to be huge for this team, and I'm excited to see where this project goes. I would love for you guys to come out for a V3 when we're closer to launch for the marketplace.
we'd be happy to be on. I know I could speak for everybody on the team to say that. So we'll definitely keep you guys updated, and yeah, talk to you guys soon.
Awesome. Thanks
All right.
again, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you guys. Have a good rest of your evening.
You too.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Thanks, Mike.
No problem.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Davis.
See ya.